Today I'm going to be sharing some easy and delicious meals. I am on WW and I like to create content on what I'm eating, meal prep, and just kind of healthier meals for my family. So if that interests you, consider subscribing. Today I'm going to be sharing 3 really good meals with you. Normally I don't include specifics about points, but I thought it might be helpful, so I included it in this video. If it is, let me know below. But I only have eggs and veggies and fruits for 0 points, so our points might be different. But all of these recipes are easy. They're going to include veggies and whole foods, and let's get cooking. Tonight for dinner, we're having steak fajitas. I don't make fajitas very often, but I'm gonna try to prep it ahead for dinner tonight. It's currently like 1:30, so I'm gonna basically marinate it for a few hours and we'll see how it turns out. So I have this beef, I think it's like top sirloin, and I'm gonna go ahead and cut it in thin strips. I think I'll also trim some of this fat off. Since I'm prepping this earlier in the day, I'm just going to go ahead and put the meat in a bowl, add oil. You could probably skip the oil and just use like water, but I feel like oil adds flavor, and so I just kind of wanted to use it. And I'm just using fajita packets, like fajita seasoning packets. You could definitely make your own if you'd like. I just wanted the convenience. So once I get it all mixed together, I'm just going to go ahead and cover it with saran wrap and put it in the fridge. You can definitely just cook it right away, and you can also use chicken instead of beef. I like my fajitas to have a lot of the pepper and onion, so I cut up a few peppers. I also sliced up a couple of onions. Now I'm going to go ahead and cook up the onions and peppers. So I just put it in my saute pan and I cooked them until they got a little bit soft. Then I took them out and I cooked the steak. So I didn't want to overcrowd the steak because I didn't want to steam it. I wanted to get kind of that golden brown kind of crust on the outside. So I just kind of put them in batches, and I had to do a few batches. I'm not really sure why I don't make fajitas more often. They're just so easy to make. They make a lot of food, so they provide good leftovers, and they're versatile. You could use chicken or beef. Since I cut the steak so thin, it only took a couple minutes on each side to cook. To get that kind of crusty part off the bottom of the pan and just to provide more moisture, I put some beef broth in the pan and kind of rubbed the bottom of the pan. I would have used water, but I had an open thing of beef broth in my fridge, so I just used that. I went ahead and added the beef back in and the onions and peppers. At this point, if I hadn't of marinated it in the fridge, I would have added the fajita seasoning, and I'm just going to kind of cook it together for a few minutes, and this is everything that I had on top of my fajitas. They were super good. For the actual beef and veggie portion, it was 6 points, and then I had a few extra points for the tortillas and the little bit of rice I had and the sour cream, but really good. I'm in my kitchen. I'm just about to get started on dinner. I'm gonna make a cheesy chicken quinoa broccoli bake. So I feel like this sounds really good. It sounds comforting. You know, it's cold around here, so I'm really excited to try this. So the first things I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cook up the chicken, or you can use the rotisserie chicken, but I don't have one. And I'm also going to go ahead and cook the quinoa. I have my chicken ready to go in the oven. So I have a little bit of butter underneath each chicken breast, and I just seasoned it with salt, garlic, and a tiny bit of pepper. I'm gonna bake it. The quinoa on, I just followed the instructions on the back of the quinoa bag. I don't make quinoa very often. I think this is only the second time I've made it because it seems so intimidating, but all I did was I measured out the quinoa, rinsed it, and added some water. I'm going to bring it to a boil and then cover it and simmer it for like 15 minutes, and then it should be done. I'm also gonna go ahead and cook the broccoli. I've got the broccoli, the onion in here. I'm gonna go ahead and cook this for about 5 minutes or so. I'm gonna add in the garlic and then just saute all that together for just a couple more minutes. Now the veggies are done, the chicken is done, and the quinoa is done. Now I'm going to get started on the cheese mixture, so I'm adding in butter. Once that melts, I'll go ahead and add in the flour. Once I get my flour in, I'm going to stir it pretty consistently until the flour and butter becomes kind of like a thick paste. And then I'm going to add in the skim milk a little bit at a time. It calls for chicken, but I don't have any chicken broth. I already had an open beef broth, so I'm going to go ahead and use that. And I'm just going to give this a stir, and I'm going to cook it until this starts to bubble and thicken. And then I'm going to go ahead and add in the seasonings. This is garlic, salt, pepper. It was supposed to be paprika, but I just used a tiny bit of chili powder because that's what I have. I also added some oregano and some Italian seasoning. I'm going to go ahead and add in that cheese. This is sharp cheddar. I added less cheese than what the recipe called for. I added about half the cheese just because I wanted to keep the points a bit lower. But you could probably use reduced fat cheese. I'm not sure if that would change anything. But I did also add a tiny bit of Parmesan on top because Parmesan is less points as well. I have all of my components ready, so I'm going to go ahead and add them to the casserole dish. I find that casseroles are really easy in terms of like what you have to do, but you do have to cook a lot of stuff before you actually build the actual casserole and bake it in the oven. So it can be a little bit time consuming. This is ready to bake. I'm going to bake it at 375 for about 30 minutes. Before I put it in the oven, I just thought I would give you a closer look. I mean, this looks really tasty. The cheese sauce smells really good. I did lighten it up a little bit. You know, you can do whatever you'd like on that. And the quinoa looks really good. I mean, I'm just really, really excited to try this for dinner tonight. We liked this. It was really good. And I have to say, it's really baby friendly. My 9-month-old loved it. But my portion was 10 points. It was a very hearty portion, and we had leftovers for a while. Tonight's dinner I'm really excited about. It's going to be lemon Parmesan pasta. This is one of our favorite things to eat. It's really easy to make. It's really tasty. It's pretty low in point, and I'm going to pair that with some green beans on the side. So I will show you where I'm at right now. I have my green beans cooking over here. So I'm cooking them until they get blistered. I cook them in the microwave first, and then I want them to get a little bit of color. Some of these are starting to get a little bit of color. I put some different sauces in here. I put a little bit of olive oil, tamari, a tiny bit of sesame oil, and some balsamic vinegar. I'm gonna add a little bit of maple syrup probably, and then some salt and a little bit of garlic. I just kind of threw in whatever sounded good. And I also have a pot of water on right here. Oh, looks like I can put my pasta in now. These are done. I'm just about to drain the pasta, but before I do, I'm just gonna save some of the pasta water. I'm in step 3, garlic cloves, and I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of saute them up. I'm gonna add it to that pasta water. I'm gonna put the juice of 2 lemons in here. My lemons are pretty average in size, but I just feel like it extra lemons today. This is one of our favorite pasta dishes, and it's really only a few extra points than just like plain spaghetti because there's no cream and there's not all that much cheese. You can also reduce the points by using whole wheat spaghetti if you'd like. Also gonna go ahead and add in that lemon zest. It's the zest from 1 lemon. I'm adding the spaghetti in, and I'm also going to add some whipped cream cheese. I will have the full recipe in the description. And then I'm going to add in, I usually use spinach, but I don't have spinach. I have this like spinach, Swiss chard, arugula mix. I'm just going to add that along with Parmesan. And then I'll also add in a 1/2 cup of milk. The final thing I'll add is some salt and pepper once I mix this up. And I'll also add in some basil. Fresh basil is really good in here, but I don't have any, so I'm just gonna use dried basil. All of us love this recipe here. I've made it a ton, and for me, it's 12 points for a serving, which I made a sixth of this entire recipe. So it's a large serving, it's really good, and of course, the points depend on your personalized plan. All the recipes are in the description box as well as links to your recipe builder. Thanks for watching.